It begins with a phone ringing in Niamey late one night. The president's security chief steps outside. There's been movement at the uranium vault outside Darlit. A mysterious convoy of trucks loaded with yellow cake uranium is rolling toward a secret airstrip. Under moonlight, India's export planes await beyond the fence. But there's a twist. U.S. intelligence teams are already tailing the trucks from the desert, radioing warnings that this deal cannot proceed. Later that dawn, Washington dispatches a private cable to its embassy in Niamey: halt all uranium exports to India, or risk severe consequences. But Niger's military government will not comply. They have already inked a stealth agreement with India, an agreement whose terms will shock even seasoned analysts. This is more than a resource trade, it's a geopolitical earthquake, because behind the shadows lie massive stakes: U.S. influence in Africa, India's nuclear ambitions, and Niger's sovereignty gambit. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll trace how this uranium pact came to life, who's involved behind closed doors, and whether the United States can still derail it. But first, how did India, historically constrained by nuclear restrictions, even get in this game? Let's rewind. India has long faced a chronic uranium shortage. Its growing civilian nuclear energy plans, alongside military needs, demand a steady supply. Historically, India's access was limited by global non-proliferation regimes. The 2005 U.S.-India Civil Nuclear Agreement, the 123 Agreement, cracked open a door allowing civilian nuclear cooperation under safeguards. Yet that agreement stopped short of letting India freely source uranium from anywhere. The nuclear suppliers group still places restrictions, and India must place all imported fuel under IAEA safeguards. India has to walk a delicate line, acquiring uranium while not triggering proliferational arms. In recent years, Indian firms have quietly scouted African uranium regions, Niger, Namibia, and elsewhere. The signals were there. Reports that Niger and India offered uranium to each other. In Niger has long been a uranium heavyweight in Africa, supplying a large share of Europe's uranium, especially via French firms like Orano. But over time, the local population and military elites grew resentful of Western firms extracting massive wealth, while leaving pollution, inequality, and little benefit behind. In 2023, a military coup upended Niger's pro-Western government. The new junta pledged to reclaim control over strategic assets. Suddenly, the uranium mines, historically under foreign lease, became national bargaining chips. By mid-2025, the junta nationalized the Kisomar uranium venture, accusing Orano of unfair practices. Orano, which once dominated Niger's mining sector, now faces legal backlash and asset seizures. So Niger was ripe for a new patron. India steps in, not just as buyer, but as strategic partner, promising infrastructure, technology transfer, and favorable revenue splits. But that move would directly challenge French and U.S. influence in the region. Inside documents leaked or quietly circulated reveal startling terms. Niger gives India exclusive long-term rights to a large share of uranium or over 20 years. India commits to building a refining and conversion facility in Niger. So much of the processing stays local. India funds local infrastructure, roads, power lines, security outposts, closing the loop on extraction. In return, India agrees to share technology, nuclear safety, waste management, and pay above-market premiums to Niger. This isn't just trade, it's a bilateral strategic pact. The U.S. intelligence analysis labels it a direct challenge to Western uranium supply chains. Inside the U.S. State Department, documents marked secret warn: if this deal goes public, American and European firms will be shut out, and new supply alliances may tilt global power. Analysts whisper that U.S. pressure, financial sanctions, or blacklisting are being prepped. But Niger and India are daring. They believe U.S. influence in West Africa has already weakened, and they don't fear the backlash. They are building shields. Washington couldn't ignore this quietly. As the deal leaked to intel agencies, the U.S. began countermeasures. Diplomatic cables and threats. U.S. diplomats buried internal memos. We must persuade Niger to walk back or suffer sanctions. American envoys have reportedly delivered ultimatums via intermediaries in Niamey. Legal suits and mining arbitration. French firm Orano filed arbitration claims against Niger in international courts to block any uranium sales without approval. These suits seek injunctions halting transfers of ore and demanding compensation. Military pressure and withdrawal. Niger's junta ended military cooperation with the U.S., leading to fallout in regional security pacts. The U.S. reportedly considered pulling troops, radar posts, and drone bases in Niger. Economic coercion. Threats of withholding loans, aid suspension, and exclusion from trade deals have been whispered. In meetings, U.S. allies in Europe have been courted to join pressure fronts. Even so, Niger holds a critical card: uranium. The U.S. can try to apply pressure, but walking back the deal means losing strategic ground in Africa. If the India-Niger deal holds, several tectonic shifts could follow. Uranium supply chains reorient. Western and U.S. firms might be cut off from Niger's mines. New buyers like India, Russia, China may dominate. Niger joins the resource nationalism wave sweeping the Sahel. Dollar-based energy monopoly challenged if India is paying in rupees or other non-USD mechanisms. This subtly undermines the US dollar's grip over global nuclear energy trade. Regional alliances shift. Niger might align with Russia or China for security, arms, and alternative investment. Indeed, Russia's Rosatom already signed a nuclear deal with Niger in 2025. This places India in an interesting cooperative triangle with Russia in Africa, something the US did not plan. Risk of covert sabotage or escalation if Niger resists pressure. Covert operations to disrupt mines or infrastructure may be set in motion. The U.S. might covertly fund dissent or engineer regulatory sabotage, a new model of South-South partnerships. The deal becomes a template. Other African uranium nations might court non-Western partners, India, Brazil, etc., instead of U.S.-European firms. But there's danger. If Niger defaults, mismanages uranium safety, or if militant groups exploit the mines, the fallout could be disastrous. We'll dive into that next. Let's imagine how this conflict could spiral and how Niger and India might fight back. Washington cuts Niger off from IMF programs, blocks access to major credit lines. Niger's local currency collapses. India must choose: bail out the state or risk the deal failing. Foreign agencies disrupt rail lines, bomb facilities, or support rebels. Mining exports halt. India must deploy security contractors, vigilante force, or even paramilitary protection in Niger. Uranium mining is dangerous. If poor oversight leads to radioactive leaks, the public backlash in Niger would be massive. The U.S. might weaponize that scandal to isolate Niger diplomatically. Survival strategies. Niger could open multiple partnership tracks, not just India, to spread risk. Russia, China, others. India could embed itself deeply by building nuclear research centers, hospitals, and energy plants in Niger, making reversal politically costly. Niger might internationalize the deal via African Union or BRICS forums to shield against U.S. pressure. But even with these, the biggest test is endurance. The U.S. has deep assets to deploy. Behind the scenes, whether financial, diplomatic, or clandestine, in the shadows of the Sahara, a new fortress of power is rising, one built not of sand, but of uranium, alliances, and audacious strategy. This India-Niger uranium pact is not simply a resource swap, it is a bold statement. Africa's resources can be leveraged for sovereignty, not subjugation. Washington may try to claw back dominance through pressure, arbitration, or force, but Niger and India have already crossed a threshold. If this deal survives the coming storms, it won't just redraw uranium maps, it could redraw the map of influence in Africa. The final question weighs on every listener. When the dust settles, who holds the stronger hand, the empire that built the old system, or the daring nations writing new rules?